Welcome back to the channel. This should be an interesting one. It's been a few days, a lot has happened since then. We've hit TVL of 2 billion plus on the Maiar Exchange. The Maiar token, last I checked, was worth like 2.6 billion in market cap. And then on top of that, Elrond EGLD is hitting, already touched 500, a little bit above 500, and now it's consolidated a bit down to 480. Like, things are crazy. So we're going to go over Elrond and MEX and all that stuff, but we're going to start with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the reserve currency of the crypto world. It has the highest market cap. It's over $1 trillion. We need to make sure that we're taking a look at it and seeing what's happening. So we're going to take a look at Bitcoin first, and then we're going to go through EGLD. We're also going to take a look at the Maiar Analytics, and we'll discuss a little bit more about the Maiar Exchange and a couple of things that I've figured out over the last few days. So a lot of good information here. I hope you stick around. And for anyone who does stick around to the end, a little nice nugget of information for you at the end. So I hope you enjoy that. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's do this. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. My Twitter link is in the description. Check that out. Most of my updates are going to be on Twitter. So if you want more like frequent updates from me, Twitter is going to be the place to get them. All right, let me scoot in, get comfortable here. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do here is pull up the Bitcoin chart. Let's go ahead and switch over to this view. Okay, so in this view, what I really want you to notice, okay, I'm going to take a few things off of here so this looks a little bit better for you. Okay, so we'll take the zones off. And what you start to notice in this Bitcoin chart is that we were getting a lot of support on this 20 exponential moving average. This is on the daily. All right, so we were getting a lot of support here, and then we fell through. We got a tiny bit of support on top of the 50 exponential, and then we fell through that too. We have not yet touched the 100. So if you had been following me for quite some time, you had known that since we were here at around 60, 62K, I was saying that we could see a drop down to around 55 or 54. That was not out of the question. Now, I started saying that around, early November. So I was a little late to the game, right? Even after we hit an all-time high and we came back down here, I still thought it was possible. So I had my orders sitting here and they've all hit. So that's a great thing. I'm really happy about that. But I did give you that information, and I'm going to tell you why. Why did I give you that information that early? Well, the reason I did that is because when I looked at the daily chart and I saw everything here, what I noticed big time was that we were missing a foundational level of support on the VPVR. So if you look at the brush here, what you'll see is we had put in a lot of support in this area. We had a lot of support here in this area, but we did not have a lot of support here. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that if the price comes down, you can expect the price to dip quickly at these levels because there's not a ton of support here. It's not always going to happen like that because with Bitcoin now, you have something interesting going on globally in economics, right? You have fiat currencies being devalued. You have, like in the United States, the Fed is telling everyone that the inflation rate's only, 5.2 or 6.2% or whatever. Well, that's complete BS. That's not the inflation rate because the price of meat, like beef, is up 25%. Other food items are up 50 to 100%. Homes are up, and in some cases, over 100%. So you're seeing a lot of appreciation of assets. And the problem is that as all these assets are appreciating, your dollars are buying less. So they tell you, the Fed will tell you that the inflation rate's only 6.2%. Well, the fact of the matter is they're not including everything in that inflation rate. They're not including all the things that everyone spends money on. Maybe the things that they're including in that 6% inflation rate are only the things that benefit their numbers. They're not really all the other things. Because if the inflation rate had been taking college tuition into account, well, the inflation rate over the last 30 years would be much higher than it's been. So keep that in mind. And everyone has to go to college. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people go to college. So if a lot of people go to college, then they have been getting devalued for a long time. Inflation with tuition has been massive. So my point here is that inflation is so high, people don't have a place to put their money. So they put it into Bitcoin. So what's been happening now? Well, it's an interesting thing that's been happening, right? This is, we're going to look at some on-chain analytics, and then we're going to go back to the chart. All right, let me go into the full screen view. You'll be able to see it a bit better. So one thing that we see when we're looking at net flow, okay, we're looking at the hourly, and we can basically see here that what's been happening is that we've had a decent amount of inflows. So this is when the price was around 59,000 here, and you see these inflows, the scale is actually quite high, right? If I put it at this scale, it looks a little bit more like it makes sense to you, right? You see here, you had an inflow onto exchanges of 3,000 BTC on the 19th. And then here on the 20th, you had 2,000 BTC come onto exchanges. Here you have another 1,200 just today. This was at about 1 a.m. Eastern last night. And then you also have, or 1 a.m. UTC, right? And then you also have at 5 a.m., you have another 800 BTC. You then have 1200 BTC. But at the same time, you did see outflows of 2,200 and 2,500. So what does this tell you? Well, it tells you that these big inflows came in when the price was roughly around 59K. So what started happening is some of this Bitcoin had to have started hitting the market. As it started hitting the market, it would have caused other people to have fear and start to sell, and you kind of start seeing that happening. You see some of these spikes coming in also in sales, but then you see these big outflows. These big outflows are people accumulating, and that's usually the smart money, because in an inflationary environment, if your fiat currencies and your other investments, for the most part, your fiat currency in general is just losing value. So if you're, a very wealthy person, or not even a very wealthy person, you have money in the bank, that money is losing value. Now, putting into Bitcoin, even if in the short term it goes down, long term, it's very likely going to beat inflation. It has since it was created by a significant rate. You're talking anywhere from 190 to 200% compound annual growth rate. That is incredible interest that you would earn on Bitcoin. So there are companies now, there are some small restaurants, I was reading about a restaurant in Canada that basically started putting all of their profits into Bitcoin last year, and now they're expanding their restaurants because Bitcoin's gone up so much. Their investment has done so well. If they had it in dollars, they would have not made anything. So the point is that people don't have a place to put their dollars, they're putting it in here, and this is why you're seeing outflows. The inflows come from people taking profits and people just in fear. If we look at the exchange reserve, you can see what happened to the exchange reserve. It took a huge dip, about close to 1.24 billion in value. From what I remember was here. It went from when the price went from around 64K per Bitcoin down to around right here, sorry. When the price went from 63K and it dipped down to around 58K, that's when we saw about $1.5 billion leave the exchange reserves. That means a lot of Bitcoin flew out of exchanges when the price had dipped here. Now we've been seeing Bitcoin coming back onto exchanges and it's starting to dip again. So this inflow to exchanges here is likely what led to another dip. And we'll see how this plays out. But overall, when you look at the exchange reserves and you switch to the daily view, well, then you really start to see what's happening with the exchange reserves. The exchange reserves are now at lows not seen since like July of 2018. So that's pretty incredible because the exchange reserves now have dropped so much that the price has had nowhere to go but up. And the fact of the matter is the exchange reserves dropping this low has not been priced in yet. So I still expect Bitcoin to have a big correction, or I'm sorry, a big recovery, and this correction rather big, but still a great opportunity, and a lot of people have been taking advantage of it. All right, let's go back to the chart here, and we've already been 8 minutes, so we'll try to do a few more minutes of Bitcoin. So looking at the chart, a couple of key things that I see, like I told you, we are looking at about 54.6 for a short-term bottom. Then we have another target here at around 53K. This is our uptrend line. So if we look at this yellow line, what you can see is the last few times that we dipped, this is the trend line that we touched. So it's possible that if we dip down again, we could come down to around 53K and touch this trend line. If we drop anywhere below this, well, I'm not expecting anything below 49K because that's where we have insane support. So after this video, more than likely I'll go and set some more orders, and those will go anywhere from 49.3 to 55 or 56K maybe. I mean, we're at 56.3 right now, so I don't know if I'd put one in for 56,000. I might as well just buy at spot at that point, but I definitely might go 53 all the way down to 49. So that's kind of my buy area right now, and my upside targets are still massive for Bitcoin. I still think that Bitcoin by the end of the year could cross over the $100,000 mark. Seeing that type of parabolic move is not out of the question. Now, if we don't see it by 2021, that's going to be bearish for the community, right? Everyone's expecting it. But if it doesn't happen, it's not a big deal. What I would look at that point is the cycle extending? Because that's another possibility with what's going on globally. There is no reason that Bitcoin could not just keep going sideways all the way into mid 2022 and then have a massive run up. And then what happens even if you have a bear market? Well, you're only, you're so much closer to the halving, right? So the bear market might be a lot shorter this time than before. So this is a cycle that I think is going to be different than everyone's expectations. Remember, prior history does not dictate future results. So we're going to look at the prior history and we're going to try to see, okay, is the cycle going to repeat? But I don't think it is, because the economic conditions are completely different this time around than before, and the people coming in are investing for different reasons. A lot of the prior bull markets, people were investing because of FOMO. Now, most of the investment is actually to store value and actually to own Bitcoin as a super long-term investment. You have millions more people doing that. So I think that's going to change the way that the patterns play out. And honestly, even if we just go sideways and that's the bear market, there is no massive drop, that wouldn't shock me either. So things can change. Keep an eye on them. For right now, I am looking for us to break above this daily 200 exponential moving average or 20 exponential moving average, and that moving average is sitting at around 61,000. So if we have a break to the upside and we break above 61K, well, then I'm going to expect support on this regression channel at 59, followed by a bounce right back up to all-time highs. Now, keep in mind, this is the daily, so we're talking 1 to 2 week time frame for something like this to happen. So keep an eye on it, and I wish you luck with your Bitcoin trading. We'll come back to Bitcoin with our next TA video, so make sure you don't miss that. All right, let's switch back. We are going to go back to this view here, and we're going to pull up the EGLD chart. Well, let's take a look at this. First thing, I'm going to switch over to the daily. All right, now on the daily, we had made a prediction a while ago. All right, this was one of our predictions, okay? This one here, and this prediction was for Bitcoin to hit $434 on November the 20th. Well, it hit that price on November the 21st. We made this prediction when the price was down here on October 18th. I'd like to say that's a pretty successful prediction. So I hope that anyone that's been following for quite some time had the opportunity to take this consolidation and use it for value buys, because anyone who is able to buy Bitcoin now below 300, you got a value buy. So a lot of us did, and whoever did not, I mean, to be honest with you, you're still getting a value buy even at these prices. I'm not going to stop accumulating because I don't even think the value is half of what it's going to be eventually. My opinion, not financial advice. You got to figure that out for yourself. Do your own homework or watch some of my older videos and see if it leads you to do your own homework to figure out why I'm coming to that conclusion. Okay, next we are going to look at our other prediction. All right, let's take a look at that just so we can see what the smaller ascending triangle told us. Well, the smaller ascending triangle told us that we were going to hit at least 405 by November the 24th. Well, guess we can delete that. Okay, so we'll delete that one. It looks like our original prediction, the larger ascending triangle, did come true, and now we are in a very interesting area. So let's actually take this triangle and remove it because we don't really need it anymore. The most interesting thing to look at on the daily right now is the fact that the RSI is incredibly overextended. That's what you're seeing here. That's actually at 80 right now. 80.67 is where that value is. Now, the problem with the RSI being that extended is basically, well, let's look at it historically, right? If you go back, you'll see the only other time that the RSI went above this level was 2 times, right? One time was back here when the price peaked at around $27. There wasn't too big of a correction. It went back down to $20. I mean, at those prices, that is a pretty big correction. But then the price peaked again and it topped out at around 214. Now, the interesting thing is, channel-wise, we're nowhere even near the top of our channels unless we are going to start putting in lower channels. We're going to have to see. But the RSI is the relative strength of the asset. And the relative strength right now is telling us that it's overbought. Now, if it's overbought, usually you're going to have some type of correction. But things are different now because the reason that EGLD is being bought is so much now is because a lot of people want to get involved in the Maiar DEX. It is growing incredibly rapidly. The Elrond team had a brilliant idea. You know, they didn't spend much money on marketing. You didn't see a lot of news articles all the time. There wasn't any ads for Elrond or Maiar. Well, they were putting their money into development. They were building a great platform, the best as far as UI, the best as far as transaction fees, scalability, transaction throughput. Like, it's incredible how good it is. So they built this entire foundation, and then they took their time to build a DEX that's industry leading as far as, I mean, it's basically enterprise level. If you compare like other DEXs to Maiar, Maiar looks professional. It shows you all the statistics you need. You have all the information you need to make educated decisions. You can have an Excel file right next to you, put in all the numbers, calculate everything, and you can start doing things like a professional. You can't do that on a lot of other dexes. And there's a reason for that. It's because those dexes just wanted to go to market and make money. Maiar wanted to give the world something that can be used to give them financial freedom. That's a huge, huge difference with other projects. So Elrond really did that right with Maiar. And I think that's what's happening now. You're starting to see people figure that out. As they're figuring it out, well, there's an interesting thing with EGLD. EGLD's been in a supply shock for months. We started talking about the supply shock down here when the price was like dipped down to $68. So the fact of the matter is it's a limited supply asset, similar to Bitcoin. Right now, the supply, I think, is like around 21 million. So let's take a look, actually. We can pull it up. So right now, the supply is, hang on, let me full screen this so you can see it. Right now, the circulating supply is 20.109 million. So it's actually less. Well, the circulating supply is actually a little higher than Bitcoin, obviously, but the floating supply is really low. It's only 8 million. And then on top of that, this is going to have a maximum supply, a theoretical of around 30 million. So you already have a massive supply issue. You have people wanting to get into this asset now. People want to buy EGLD for a reason. Right? They want to buy their EGLD so they can get into the Maiar Exchange, or they just want to hold EGLD as an asset because they're starting to learn about the project. So let's say you're buying EGLD because you want to invest in the Maiar Exchange. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to buy your EGLD, you're going to transfer it to your Maiar wallet or to your Elrond web wallet, you're going to connect to Maiar, and then you're going to take some of that EGLD and likely convert it into MEX or USDC, and then you're going to stake and start farming. Well, as soon as you're doing that, you're providing liquidity, and the value of the LP tokens are rising, the value of the MEX price is rising, and on top of that, those people buying the EGLD to get into the exchange, they're making the price of EGLD rise. So that's why you're seeing everything go up. And even though it's going up and correcting a little bit, traders are always going to exist. That's going to happen. People are going to take profits. You know, a lot of early investors have made a lot of profits here. And one of the things I talked about in one of my prior videos is that EGLD could go up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. It's possible. Now, if that's a possibility, a lot of people on Twitter always tell me, I'm never selling my EGLD. I'm never selling my EGLD. Once you start seeing life-changing gains and you're making millions of dollars and you start realizing that this worth that you have can completely change your physical life, well, then at that point, you may want to take profits. And it's not a bad thing to do that. Making significant gains like this, it doesn't come all the time in life. We just happen to be at a very critical time. We happen to be at a time of the crypto boom. It's like the internet boom. Most of us were too young to invest in stocks in 1999 when the internet boom happened, but we're here for crypto. The following generations may have their own booms. This is ours. So a lot of people are missing out on it, just like a lot of people missed out on the internet boom. And I think 20 years from now, people are going to talk about it. People are going to talk big time about what was happening in crypto back in 2020 and 2021. Big things are happening here. So I think you're going to continue to see the price of EGLD rise, and I think it's going to continue to have corrections on the way. Right now, the daily chart looks very interesting. I mean, this is basically a parabolic move up. After most of these parabolic moves up, we end up hitting a top and then consolidating and coming back down to at least the 20 exponential moving average. Well, the 20 exponential moving average right now is sitting at around $338. Now, the interesting thing about this is that you could end up seeing EGLD do this, right? You could end up seeing EGLD, hang on, let me get my brush. You could end up seeing EGLD put in one of these, go up to like 750, 800, right? And at that time, you would have this happening with your 20 exponential moving average. And these time frames are not right. So this could be a much longer time frame. You know what? Let me give you a better time frame. So if we're seeing it like this, then maybe more like this. Let's say by mid-December or something, we start hitting around 750 to 800. Well, if you have trading activity like that, what you're going to end up seeing with the 20 exponential moving average is something like this. The 20 exponential moving average is slowly going to work its way up. So that means that if you have a parabolic move up and these small corrections reset the RSI on the way, well then once you hit 730, you could have a correction back down to around 530, right? That's a pretty big correction, and that can match what we're seeing here. It can allow for a little more consolidation and more moving up. Now that depends. What's dependent on that is that the exchange doesn't keep growing rapidly for the next 3 months. It could, because the incentive that they've put in here is, I think, the best incentive that any DEX has ever put out. So it's going to bring a lot of users in. Now, a lot of users are going to come in for rewards, but then they're going to start seeing, what, these transaction fees are so low. I can do this so cheap. This interface is so good. Wow, I really like this app. This makes everything a lot easier. And then on top of that, they're going to see, oh, they're going to have an NFT marketplace coming soon. There's already some third-party NFT marketplaces. I can do everything here that I can do on Ethereum, and it costs me nearly nothing in transaction fees. Well, once you start seeing people realize that, I think you're going to see value continuing to rise, right? The MEX economics are very interesting. We're going to do another video in the future to go over that. But what I want you to do for now is try to read those things on your own. All right, if you go onto the Maiar Exchange website, you can click on the documentation, read the MEX economics PDF, and you can also go to the Elrond blog and find the MEX tokenomics article. Those are both great resources. You should check them out. They're going to give you a lot of information about MEX, and I'm going to explain to you my thoughts on it in a few days. I'll make another video soon where we talk all about the MEX economics. Okay, but for now, if I'm looking at what's going to happen, this is such a tough thing to do. Like, I love doing TA, but I'll tell you, when things are in a blue sky breakout, I hate doing TA because it's impossible to know what's going to happen. TA-wise right now, I'll tell you what the dilemma is with EGLD. All right, so the dilemma with EGLD is that TA-wise, we don't have a lot of volume above like 340 in comparison to the volume before. But assets change price, and then the amount of volume is not relative because the price is higher. So you're not always going to have the same amount of volume that you had at the lower prices because less volume is higher value now. So I still honestly don't think that anywhere below 350 is even possible. I don't see us going down that far, because if we go down that far now, it would be for some reason that the Maiar Exchange is not attracting people, but there's over $1 billion in incentive right now. So I don't see how that's possible. It doesn't make sense for that to be a possibility. But what is possible here is a smaller correction. And the first thing that I'd be looking for as far as corrections go, we're going to go down to the 4-hour chart to look at this a little bit better. Okay, so what I'm looking for as far as corrections go now on the 4-hour is I want support at 450. 450 is the top of this regression channel. We've gone above it. We got a little bit of support there. We want to continue seeing support here. If we fall below the 450 level, well, then I'm looking at 416 as our next major support. So we could have a dip there. We are also a possibility of looking at around 370. I don't see us going much lower than that, and I have a feeling that if there is a dip to those levels, it's going to be incredibly fast because people are going to want to buy and then go onto the exchange and swap for MEX and start farming. That I am fairly certain is what would happen, because if I see the price drop down to those levels, my orders are already set. I'm going to be buying, and then I'm going to be adding more liquidity and putting it into the farm. So if I'm already waiting to do that, I'm willing to bet a lot of other people are. So I don't see anything going below that, but I'm finding it hard to believe that it would go down that far right now. I think that 420 is a possibility, and 420 is not too a feeling that if this does go down to that level, it's not going to be there long. I think that those are probably the best bets we have. I mean, I don't really think that anything below 390 is something that we can logically expect right now with what's happening and with what the incentives are to be involved with the Maiar Exchange and be farming. And the best way to get involved is to buy EGLD, transfer it to your wallet, and then connect to the Maiar Exchange and use that to buy MEX and do liquidity. So getting EGLD is the fastest way to do it. If you were to try to get USDC from Ethereum and use a bridge and all that stuff, it's going to be so much more expensive. So why would you want to do all that? Right? It's much better to just buy your Elrond EGLD on an exchange, take that from the exchange, transfer it to your wallet, and get started. That's the best way. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to be doing. And I think part of the reason that you're going to see other assets hurting right now is because a lot of the value from those assets is going to be flowing into Maiar. When something new comes out, it can be very disruptive. You know, the way that I see it is, if we were to compare Ethereum and the entire DeFi space to what happened with social media, okay, I kind of look at Ethereum as MySpace until Ethereum becomes a lot better. I own Ethereum, but I still look at it like MySpace, right? MySpace became huge, but then Facebook came around, and Facebook was a much better interface. It worked a lot better than MySpace, and what happened? MySpace disappeared and Facebook took all the market share. Well, when it comes to most DeFi ecosystems right now, Maiar has pretty much the best infrastructure and best UI. It has the lowest fees. It has everything that you would need for this to become the next big thing. And then you have HoloRide doing their token sale. That the lottery is happening, very soon, and it'll probably be listed on the Maiar Exchange with liquidity and farms and all that stuff by mid-December or earlier. So I think that's going to bring in a lot more investment. So we're going to see a lot of interesting things happen, and we're going to see a lot of value shifting as things come in. You might see, LP tokens in the EGLD MEX farm go down a bit, and then LP tokens in the HoloRide MEX or HoloRide EGLD farm would go up. Like, we don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but be ready for all these things. There could be a lot of different volatility going on in the Maiar Exchange because of the things happening. Let's take a look at the Maiar Exchange now. There's not a lot else we can do here. If we're looking at tops, we don't have any data. That's the fact. The closest thing I have to data right now for a top, I'm going to take you to the daily chart so you can see this a bit better, and you'll understand why I'm giving this to you. So the closest thing I have here on the daily for a top is at about $650 at our next regression line. So it's very hard for me to say where the next top is. Let me try adjusting this Fibonacci and see if this gives us any other levels, because I had not done this yet. Okay, so we'll put that like right at the all-time high. All right. So these Fibonacci levels, this Fibonacci tells us that we could be looking for support at around 380, right around 390. Just like I said, I don't see it going much further than that. So the fact that the Fibonacci confirms that, it's pretty cool. So look for trading to be between around 390 and 490. If there's volatility. I don't really know if we're going to see much less than that. And as far as tops go, my tops right now are as high as 600 because of the fact that we don't have any data, right? There's just not enough data. We're in blue sky breakout. I don't want to give you false TA here. I'm just going to tell you I need more data. I need to see where we actually top out and start going down, because otherwise there's no way to predict anything. The only thing that I can say is that if we start seeing the RSI reach at this level, right here on the left hand side, so let's draw a horizontal line so you can see how far we are from that. So if we start to see RSI reaching that upper yellow line, okay, that's at around the 96 level on the RSI. Well, that upper yellow line could be an indication that we've hit a top. So we'll keep an eye on that. This is on the daily chart. That's where we hit our last massive top on EGLD. So keep an eye on that. That's pretty much all I'm looking at right now. Not a lot else to do, but as we have more data, I promise you better TA. So we'll get back to that, and follow me on Twitter. When I have anything interesting that I see on the charts, I try to share it on Twitter immediately. So you'll get the most up-to-date information if you follow me there. Okay, so we have gone quite a long time. Let's switch over to Maiar, and then I'm going to give you the nugget that I've been waiting to give you, and I think you're going to enjoy that. All right, so Maiar, what we're seeing are some very interesting numbers. Let's refresh this. First of all, the MEX token right now is going for 0.001622, giving it a market cap of 2.72 billion, total value locked of 2.22 billion. Volume in the last 24 hours, 78.5 million, and we only have 2 trading pairs. This DEX is just getting started, and it is blowing everything out of the water. Let me ask all the people on Twitter that were messaging me saying, hey, why doesn't Elrond and Maiar do more advertising? This is why. They spent their money wisely. They didn't need people coming in for advertising. They needed people coming in for value, right? Now people are coming to Maiar because there's a reason, there's a use case, and the people that were lucky enough to see this earlier have done very well by being part of the ecosystem, by helping the team get to where they are, helping them scale the network by staking, helping the staking providers by delegating to them. So everyone had a part in this, and the Elrond team planned it out incredibly well. Whoever is in charge of strategy there deserves a huge kudos and thank you, because they did a great job. All right, so the next thing that we're going to look at here are just a couple of statistics. The liquidity has been going up rapidly since we since the Maiar DEX was released and opened up for everyone to come in. So we see increase of liquidity going up very quickly. Eventually, I'm going to expect this to plateau, but the fact of the matter is right now, Maiar, even with 2 trading pairs, is a lot more valuable than some DEXs that have 20 or 30 trading pairs. And I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to start seeing more value come in. I'm going to expect this to start moving sideways slightly, but I don't expect it to go down. I expect it to curve, plateau, and then continue moving up. Daily volume, I expect this to continue rising as well because I see only more and more people coming in at this point. Not a lot else I can give you here. I mean, unfortunately, we just don't have many statistics yet. We need some charts for MEX. So as those charts come out, I'll give you more. The only other things that, I've kind of noticed as I've been looking at this is that as we have more people coming in, you're definitely going to see the APR is not going to be as psychotic as it was when it first came out. Everything's going to scale and adjust properly. And hopefully your investments over the last few days have been done properly so you're earning decent rewards. If you're not earning rewards yet, check my last video when I did the talk about MEX. I did a DeFi basics video, and in that video I went over the farming quite a lot, and we're going to do a lot more on this as time goes on and I figure out new things. I'm not the type of person that's going to come here and give you videos to give you no information. So when I have something important to tell you about the DEX, I'll give it to you. Right now, I think the biggest thing that we just need to look at here is the fact that the APR is going to be proportional to the value and the amount of emission. And the emission schedule is something you definitely need to look at. So you can click here and then click on MEX economics, and that'll pull up the PDF. You can get an idea of the emission schedule. And when we do our MEX economics video, we're going to go over all of that, and I'm going to explain to you how I'm taking it in and what I think is going to happen with the economics and with the future. Keep in mind that those economics, when you look at them with only these farms, it may seem like we're emitting too much. But this is the beginning. There's eventually going to be a lot more trading pairs, a lot more liquidity pools, a lot more farms. There'll be an NFT marketplace, and MEX will be involved in everything. I don't know how involved it'll be in the NFT marketplace, but it'll be involved in everything here on the DEX. So keep that in mind as those other trading pairs come in. The demand for MEX may be much higher than it is today, which means that the price appreciation could be much higher than the inflation rate, at least for the first year. And then after that, maybe things stabilize. We don't really know, but we'll start finding out as time goes on. All right, that I think is pretty much it. Oh, you know what? I did have one other interesting thing for you. So the other thing I wanted to show you here is growth.elrond.com. If you haven't checked this out yet, make sure you check it out. One of the interesting things on here that we see is that the staked supply is actually not dropping significantly. It's at 11.9 million. That's really good. Staking is a good thing. I still stake at least 70 to 80% of my EGLD because I want to earn solid returns on that, and then on top of that, I want to be a part of the decentralization and help the staking providers. So I'm definitely continuing to do that. If we look here at awareness, this is very interesting. One thing you'll see is that Twitter may be kind of, Twitter's higher than it was before. If we look at the monthly, it's roughly the same. Oh, it doesn't look like that's showing us for the month. It looks like the monthly isn't working. But if we look at Google on the right-hand side, the number of impressions in Google for Elrond EGLD is now up 85% this week. If we look at the month, it's also 85%. I mean, that's a massive, massive increase. Now, this tells us that more people are finding out about Elrond now for the first time because they're Googling it. So let's look a little bit at the Google Trends. If we look at the Google Trends for the word Elrond, well, we see here that it peaked out in February around the time that EGLD hit its all-time high. We're only at 50% of that top right now. So I think there's a lot more people that don't know about this yet that are going to find out. If we search EGLD, you'll see here, previous all-time high, it peaked out at 100. Right now, it's only at 20% of that. And then if we look at Maiar Exchange, well, you can tell there's a lot of interest. There was not too much before, just when there was a few news releases. But now there's been a massive rise from the last few weeks in interest over the Maiar Exchange. So keep that in mind. These numbers are rising. More people are finding out about it and do things the way you see fit. Finally, we have my brand new NFT release. This was the nugget of information. It's right in front of you. I have put it for sale immediately before this video. I didn't tell anyone on Twitter because the last few times that I sold NFTs, I've sold 4 NFTs so far, 5 NFTs so far. And those 5 NFTs all sold immediately. Now, the problem is that I think when I put it on Twitter, people kind of rush to buy them because I'm trying to price everything as well as I can, and the demand was higher than I expected. So now what I've done is I haven't put it on Twitter. Whoever's watching this video, you'll get first dibs. My Emoon Space profile link is going to be in the description. Check it out. This NFT is to commemorate the start of Maiar. You'll see here, here's a visual of it. And it has begun. The description here reads, "This is what you wish you had in every other DeFi ecosystem. This is Maiar. Welcome to the future." Peace out.